Hello ladies and gentlemen. This is a video that you watch if and only if you decide to invest on Break. I'm not gonna talk about how strong Break is compared to other archetypes because I'm assuming that you've already made up your mind and it wouldn't be very productive to do that. Watch my banner review instead for more general thoughts on Break from a bird's eye view that should capture whatever you're trying to look for. This is not a banner review though, this is a pull priority video, showing you what you should pick up from these banners to upgrade Break the most efficient way for you. This means I'm going to go through the power of character eidolons and signatures for a specific purpose. Well, let's get this going now. So you decided to pull Break. The first thing we have to address is the banner order. We start at phase 1 with Firefly and Dahlia, and phase 2 with Lingsha and Fugue. Because of this, the pull priority will be a lot more streamlined. Even if Fugue may be a better character, you will still pull Dahlia first because of the ordering. You will adjust your guarantees with this in mind. For example, right? Rappa wants both Fugue and Dahlia, but Dahlia's eidolons are stronger than Fugue, so you invest just enough on Dahlia to guarantee Fugue, then get Fugue with the leftover pulls. I made this chart format to take this banner order in mind, and hopefully this is a lot better than my Cyrene investment chart. The second thing is the baseline team. Since Super Break is ironically very cheap and very easy to start up, you have a very strong core already. Harmony MC with their E6 is free, Ron May with E1 is free from all of the gold companion spirits they gave out, and Gallagher at E6 is fairly common and he's on banner. The remaining slot is dedicated to the DPS role. For affordable units, these are Shui, Himiko, Su Shang, and Luca, I guess. So the utmost first priority, no matter what, if you want to invest into Break at all, even before getting a limited 5-star DPS that you want to main, is straight up just Dahlia at E0. Because of the baseline team being Ron May and HMC, there's really not a lot of room to debate. Super Break is an archetype where just stacking all 3 foundational supports can be enough to clear. Because, well, Dahlia herself does damage, Harmony MC does damage, Ron May does some damage of her own, and Gallagher also does damage. Everyone in a Super Break team chips in with support and damage to do a serviceable clear. Just to say it in the simplest way possible, you'd rather be in a situation where you have Dahlia with no Break DPS than the other way around. Next up, let's go into more detail of pulling your DPS, which is optional. More on that later. Since Firefly is the only one getting a rerun, let's talk about investing specifically for Firefly first. For Firefly, the second phase characters are her best in slot, but not as important as her eidolons. Fugue is someone you only really consider a big upgrade over Harmony MC once you have Firefly at E2. So if you want to pull Firefly, the priority would be Dahlia and Firefly at E0, then either go for Dahlia or Firefly eidolons until E2, then you can start considering Fugue. Alternatively, you consider Fugue if you're willing to use Elation MC or you're mostly just using Remembrance MC now. In that case, using Harmony MC is impossible, so might as well pull Fugue because you really have no choice on the matter. I also want to talk about Constance Sig for a bit because this is gonna apply to every Break DPS. Constance's Sig is very strong because the multiplier it gives is effectively almost the same as true damage. Constance, E1, and Signature are pretty equal, and Nihility has many competitive 4-star options like Tutorial and Pearls. Because there's only one tutorial in the game and Pearls is a gacha cone, if you are unable to get a copy free for Dahlia, like for example Tutorial and Pearls are used on another team like DOT or with Akron supports, Dahlia's Sig can actually be optimal over her E1 because of the price. So that's how you invest into Firefly. Invest into Firefly or Dahlia's eidolons and then go for Fugue and Lingsha, I suppose. Next is boothill. Boothill is the one Super Break character with the weakest verticals, which means he's a lot more free in picking up Dahlia's eidolons or Fugue's eidolons. For Boothill, he wants both Constance and Fugue even at E0. Fugue's exo toughness for Boothill, unlike Firefly, has a much higher damage increase because it doubles his massive physical breaks. Fugue E0 is a much higher increase than Constance's E1, so that's your minimal team. If you already have the minimal team, you can go for either Fugue or Constance eidolon. Constance generally has the stronger Eidolons, but Fugue's E2 and E1 are pretty similar enough value for boothill that you won't really regret investing in either. If boothill ever reruns, picking up his Sig is also an option. However, it becomes unnecessary if you already have the Mozolite cone that gives you a lot of break effect, which is almost equal in stats except for the defense ignore. Boothill does have more issues in AoE content in general, which makes lingsha a bigger upgrade in sheer versatility. Plus, boothill is a lot less safe to run than Firefly because of his a standoff mechanic or whatever it is called. Lingsha's value is pretty similar to Dahlia E1 in Anom arbitration for boothill's safety, but nothing further than lingsha E0 should be invested in if you want to main boothill. Rappa is pretty similar to boothill. The only difference in investing in Rappa is that her Sig has alternatives, but they are a lot weaker. Rappa's signature LC is actually almost as big of a priority as the character themselves. Like, you can run Rappa's Sig on Anaxa for fun and it actually works. Please don't do that. That's so cursed. Either way, Dahlia's Eidolons are much stronger for Rappa. This is why I knocked down Fugue's Eidolons to third. This is because of two things, right? Dahlia's E2 is very strong against Rappa's best matchup of AoE mobs. In pure fiction, it's completely ridiculous and has no equal. The second part is that this specific matchup that Rappa completely stomps, AoE and pure fiction, has Harmony MC spamming DDD up the wazoo in sustainless, making the E2 DDD on Fugue's ult much less effective because it's a smaller chunk of the DDD procs in a fight. Rappa also has a lot of advances with her Sig already, so it isn't that big of a deal. Lastly, because of Rappa being quite meh at single target, the cases where Fugue's E2 will be a better upgrade than Dahlia's is where she has her worst matchups that you probably shouldn't use Rappa on. So yeah, even though Fugue at E0 is necessary, Fugue's E1 and E2 is actually falling a bit short compared to Dahlia's E1 and E2. Again, Dahlia's Eidolons are just ridiculous, right? Next is main DPS Lingsha. Lingsha has a pretty good E1, but that's it really. Lingsha's signature has a fairly high amount of alternatives, one of which is strangely Luocha's Sig and a couple of 4 stars. If you want to invest in main DPS Lingsha, your ideal team is Harmony MC, Fugue, and Dahlia. Fugue's value at E0 for main DPS Lingsha is directly tied to Harmony MC's DDD spam. Otherwise, Lingsha doesn't get as much from the alternative of Ranmei. So if you have plans on using a different MC path, Fugue is less of a priority. After getting E0 for Dahlia and Fugue, your next step is actually Lingsha's E1. It is very similar to Fugue's E1 but with a much stronger stat bump. So if you want to main Lingsha, getting her E1 over Constance's E1 is actually a pretty decent choice. But after that, Lingsha doesn't have that many strong early Eidolons left, and all you can really do is drop it on Constance and Fugue's E2. Okay, remember when I said Break is an archetype where a main Break DPS is optional for now? Here's why. Firefly is the super Break DPS that has the strongest early Eidolons. However, because of how strong Dahlia is, 2.x super Break DPSs are sort of screwed by the fact that Break as an archetype can run no main Break DPS at all and still clear. Because the supports for Break are actually too strong relative to the DPS. It's kinda like running Tribby, Silverwolf, Cypher, and Hyacine and still being able to clear. Except Break as an archetype is not flexible at all, so there's no concern about wasting high demand support. All this to say, pulling Firefly at E0 and even E2 is not worth it. If you don't really want to dedicate yourself to a main Break DPS, Dahlia has strong Eidolons without having it be locked behind a 1-year-old DPS that can fall off at any moment. Obviously, Rappa and boothill have weaker vertical investment, but in general are stronger characters than Firefly. But if you're starting from zero, boothill and Rappa aren't recommended either if you only like the Break archetype itself but not the DPSs. Unfortunately, the weakest link of Break may actually be the DPS, just like DOT before Heistland. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that they'll release another Break DPS that's tuned for more modern numbers. So here's a viable investment plan if you're looking forward to the high ceilings of Break after their version of, Kafka, which comes in the form of of Dahlia. This investment plan also works with placeholder options like Himiko and Shuei, or even just on their own team is fine. The limitation is that we don't know exactly what the main DPS is going to be like, so this is basically a heuristic investment plan. You should get Dahlia and her Eidolons, but you should do it in such a way where you still have guarantees for both Lingsha and Fugue. Then you can start investing into Dahlia Eidolons, then into Fugue Eidolons. This should generally be an optimal path for non-limited break DPS, so you can use it even before the next break character comes out. So there we go. That's the entire investment map. It should show up on the screen now of the investment map, and hopefully this sums up my thoughts pretty well, and surely this won't get taken out of context in a Reddit thread and have people complain about it. Who knows? I hope this was helpful and a lot easier than Sirene's map to parse for you guys. But anyway, I hope I'll see you guys later. I'll be pulling for Dahlia actually, even though I don't like break as an archetype. I just pull for freaky characters. I know I'm the fan being serviced, and yeah. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.